Hey everyone, Eggman here with another video, and the wait is finally over. We have the top 16 for all 5 different Gen Con events that happened this past weekend for the One Piece card game. And a couple of things before we get started. First, this was a lot of work to get on the website, and I do want to thank One Play TCG for running the event and also for publishing the deck list. I also want to thank both Chippy and Yomi for helping me with these. I would probably still be inputting these lists as of you watching this on release. So this was a lot of work that we were able to condense into something a lot more manageable, and I really do appreciate how far we've come with this. So really do appreciate that. And then also, if you just want any of the deck lists from OP07, they're all on my website, Eggman Events, so make sure to check that out. And then lastly, I do also want to thank our sponsor, Sleeve Chief. They've got a bunch of projects for the for card game accessories. They've got deck boxes, they've got Dawn sleeves, they also have just sleeves in general too. They have a sale right now for their pirate bundle. You can check that out, which has all 3 of these deck box. I have all 3 of these. They're very, very cool, so I really recommend it. If you guys are interested, make sure you use my link in the description, and if you use my discount code the Eggman, you get an additional 5% off too, so make sure to check that out. But you guys are interested in the deck list for this one, and real quick again, if you guys want to see everything that topped, we did have 5 top 16. So of that, we have 80 deck list, and we had 23 star deck 10 Law, 15 OP07 Lucci, 13 copies of Star Deck 13 Luffy, 8 Moria, 8 Bonney, 5 Enel, 4 of the Nami, 2 of the OP05 Luffy, 1 Perona, and 1 Zoro. So honestly, a really good mix of stuff. I was a little bit surprised to see that Law was the one that got the most tops out of everything. I was expecting more of either Lucci or even Luffy, because I've seen a lot of people kind of switch to that deck in the last little bit, but a really, really good variety. And I think there's just so many different leaders that are viable. There are 10 different leaders that top this weekend, which I think is really impressive for this card game as well. So really, really cool. And we're going to go over the top placing list for each one of these leaders as well. But I do also want to mention that as we go through this too, the pie charts for each individual event are wildly different, which I also think is really interesting. So for the offline treasure cup, we did have the 5 Law, 4 Luffy, 3 Nami, 2 Bonney, and 2 Enel. So you'll notice that there's no Gecko Moria and no copies of Rob Lucci, which I think is very interesting for a top 16 in this meta in general. You also might notice this Eggman guy getting 4th place, but I digress. We also do have the offline regional, so we'll see that Rob Lucci took this one. And I didn't really mention it, but we have 5 different leaders winning these 5 different events, which I think is just again fantastic for a variety of what can get there. So we do also have the difference of the offline regionals that we had. It was a 2-day event, so it was a day 2 top cut, and it was top 16. Everything else was Swiss only. And they were either 9 to 10 of rounds either. So the online treasure cups were 1,000 person cap approximately. I think most of them were around 800 that actually showed up, and then on the offline treasure cup it was 500 for that one. And then we were around just between like 650 and 700 for the offline regional here too. So but that's something to make a little bit of a difference for that one. We also have the online treasure cups, and treasure cups seem to have a little bit more variety, including the Saturday one. Saturday had so much variety. We see just so many one of leaders, including Perona and Zoro, which only topped during this event, which I think was unique. And then honestly, like the last one I think is kind of like generically, if you were to boil this meta down, no Nami. I think Nami would be like the 7th leader we would add for this, but generally I think all these leaders are very viable for this format in general. So that's just some generalized data, nothing too specific, but I did think it's interesting to note just how different some of these pie charts are between the 2 of them. For example, like the offline regionals, look how much Rob Lucci topped in this one compared to literally in the same weekend it didn't top the offline at the same time. So I think that's peculiar too. But as mentioned, we are going to go over the top placing leader for each one of these leaders, starting off with our 5 winner decks for this one. Also, I just generically chose the top placing leader for each one of these. I there's no way I can go over 80 deck lists in one video. And so if you did do well, I do want to just say big congratulations to everyone who taught for this weekend. It was a huge one, and I don't want you to feel snubbed that I didn't go over your list specifically. So, but I am sorry for anyone I did not go over for this one. But jumping into it, we do have our first list, which is Rohit's version of Nami, which was the first event for this one. This is the Thursday Treasure Cup, and again, this was the tournament that I was in as well. And I kept seeing Rohat, and I was like, hey, how you doing? It's like, oh, I'm 4-0, and then I'm 5-0, and then I'm 6-0. And he's, if you guys don't know Rohit, I've known him for a long time. He plays a lot of card games. Specifically, he played a lot of Dragon Ball Masters, which I think he's off of right now. But he's just a really solid card game player. So I did want to do an interview with him, but he's like, why? This is Nami. We know how this works and everything. And I also do think that this event in particular was peculiar because we had for the entire weekend we had 4 Namis top, and 3 of them were from this event, which I think is peculiar, but including Rohit winning this one. But we also did have like Pharaoh, and we also had Pharma get there too, which in the top 8. So both of these all these were X1 anyways for this one. But yeah, I don't think there's that much difference from stuff from other Nami lists. We're obviously playing a lot of the new Amazon package with the Elder here, which is really good, being able to add the Amazon Lily, our Kuja Pider stuff. Marguerite as a blocker that also draws a card is nice. And then we've also have the Snake Dance, which lets us get out of attacks, but also bounce the Kaias back into our hand, which is really, really nice. So nothing too peculiar. I think Rohit's just a really strong player. It was a good choice for the event during this day, which I think a lot of people were playing more of the slower decks and not necessarily like some of the faster decks that can punish this, like the red purple law, which was definitely present for the rest of this weekend too. So this is Rohit's list, and congratulations for their first place on the Thursday event. And then next up we have Kyle for the Rob Lucci. So this is for the Saturday regionals. So again, this is the 2-day event with a top cut, and this is a bit of an interesting build as well. We do know that the finger gun I think has been getting a little bit more popular at a copy or 2 per deck. I think we have been seeing a little bit more of the Bonney. I think also the trigger effect, I think more people aren't playing around this, so the potential of that hitting is really strong too. The fact that it's a Cypher Pole card is great for not only being able to be found by the Spandam, but that you can also bottom deck it for your Spandine effects and others where you need to get specifically Cypher Pole cards. And it's just like good momentum too for some situations. So we are playing the stage build, which I think is still popular, but I have been seeing a couple builds without the stage, or at least without 4 copies of it. And some decks have been like replacing it with Ice Age as well. We also have like the Tempest Kick 2, which has been very nice for the deck for consistency. And then just generally the suspects that we've been seeing for a lot of these, including like 8-drop Moria has been good, Sabo's been good, and Isha has been I think popular card for both this and Gecko Moria at times. It's like a backup, and there are some greedy decks that will let you play this on 8 and will have 6 or more cards in hand. So I also think that the more cost reduction, especially since we're already playing 4-cost Brook at 3 copies, helps us with this one too. So don't have much more to say. Congratulations to Kyle for their first place on the Saturday regionals. And then next up we do have the Black Yellow Luffy. So this is Andy's version of the deck, which he did place first place in the Online Treasure Cup on Friday. I've been a big fan of this deck for a while, and it's the deck that I play the most in this format, and I'd say this is pretty standard. I think a lot of people have been trying Kuzan in this build specifically. It's just a good card to play on 4, and then if it's able to survive, there's some good chances where you can attack with it, and then you can use something like Rocket Luffy to get some removal, which I think is really strong for it. So other than that, there's not a lot of flexibility room for this deck in general. Being able to play cards like Thunderbolt isn't too crazy. I know most people are on this card. I don't like this card personally, but that's just me. I'm just the crazy guy, but I do think that in this meta, this is what this deck looks like. I think a lot of people are on 4 of each Luffy and then kind of cut down to 2 copies of the aces each, since you really only need to proc one of those like late game, if at all. Sometimes you just outgrind your opponent a lot of the time. So I think this deck is good. It's still going to be doing good for the rest of this meta, and just a big congratulations to Andy for their finish with the Black Yellow Luffy. And then next up we've got Red Purple Law. So again, Red Purple did win on the Saturday event, and this is the one where again had the biggest amount of variety in the top cut sense. So this is Kevin's version of it here. I think Law is definitely a deck where you know what cards you should be playing, and then you have a lot of room for flexibility on a lot of cases. Some interesting choices that I see from this one in particular is that we are playing two copies of Shiraya, which usually most people have been cutting, but I think the 2 copies are nice. We have 2 copies of Zoro Juro as well, which being able to use this to get some Dawn later, but again, not full committing to it is really interesting. 3 copies of Bon Clay, which I haven't seen any less than 4 in, I'd say, most builds. So this cutting down to this 3 is peculiar, I think a little bit noteworthy. And also 3 copies of Kid and Killer instead of 4, which is also a little bizarre. I think if asked, people would play 5 copies if allowed to. So playing 3 is interesting. And then the 4-drop Law, we also have the Beppo here, which most people have been out of this too. So again, this is a really interesting ratio for the deck list and for what's in it. We've got the Kid and Queen, which I think are pretty standard, but we also have like the Miss All Sunday at a couple copies, as well as the Sanji. So a good, interesting deck. I do think you can get away with having some weirder ratios with Law, and the most consistent you can get it, you can go for it. But man, the 3 Kid and Killer, and if I remember rightly, I think the reason they're running 3 is because they only have 3 of the alt art, which is wild. But hey, if it works, if it gets you first place, you do what you got to do for that one. And that could be wrong. That's what I heard, but that could be wrong too. So anyways, this is Kevin's build of it, and congratulations to Kevin for their first place on Saturday. And to wrap up our undefeateds, we've got Bryan with their version of Gecko Moria. So this is the first place list from Sunday. So I think a lot of people have been off Gecko Moria just for the fact that Rob Lucci was the newer leader, and it functions, I think, more similar to what Sakazuki did in a lot of ways. But Gecko's, I think, still very present in what this meta is, and I could see this being increasingly more popular as we get to the end of what this meta looks like. So I think the trade-off with Rob Lucci is that Rob Lucci has better removal in general, and has better, like, they can take advantage of 8-drop Moria a lot more, but I do also think that Moria is more consistent. You can see 8-drop more consistently as well, and you are better at building a wider board too. So you get the tempo from Rob Lucci from being able to remove their cards more efficiently, and Gecko Moria gets the advantage by being able to just build cards more efficiently too. So since we do have space in the deck, we usually play the Navy build. I think the 6-drop Sakazuki has been a really good add for the deck, just to be able to, 1 on 6 Dawn, play a really good card that gets rid of anything your opponent played that's not named Sabo or Borsalino, and also putting cards into our trash that we need to anyways. Moria is a little bit better at it than the Rob Lucci, just because we do have our leader effect, but it does take a good amount of Dawn invested to use that effect. Meanwhile, like Rob Lucci, if you don't mill it outright, we only have like Sabo that lets us get that additional removal, or discard. So other than that, I think this deck is great. I think that Moria is going to continue doing very well in the next couple weeks too, and just a big congratulations to Bryan for their finish with this one. So after that, we do have a couple of our X1s that we have for the other leaders, starting off with the list of Bonney. So this is Shudder's version, who got top 4 during the offline regionals that happened again on Saturday and Sunday. Bonney is just a deck I really wish I could get behind. I really, really do. I really wish this is a deck that I could fully commit to, and it's just frustrating. I had a conversation with Russell, shouts to the residential Bonney player on the Eggman team, but it just feels like when you win, it's just you narrowly win, and you can kind of see times where if your opponent played a little bit differently, they could have won the game and they just didn't. And then when you lose, it just feels really bad. Like you're just like, I couldn't have done anything different. And it's just how that is. So I do think Bonney does have a lot of advantage. You do have some good tempo game, and you do also have a really good matchup, I think, in a Black Yellow Luffy, which has been increasing in popularity as this meta has been going down the line. But I don't know. You do have like some of the best boss monsters in the game. Hody Jones has been very good for a lot of decks. 8-drop Kid is like always relevant, though I think every set there's another way that they can interact or remove this card. We have 10-drop Dofi, which can just seal you the game if you play 2 back-to-back. And then we also have 9-drop Zoro, which does do well against, again, Black Yellow Luffy and Enel and a lot of other decks, really. If they can't answer this card, like 12k plus every 3 swings can just ruin game states. So I think this deck is good. I think there's a lot of games where you can win with it too, but man, when you don't, like when your hand's not cooperating with you or anything else, it just feels kind of bad. But I do really respect a Bonney player who's able to do so well, especially top 4, which is amazing for it. I have a hard time playing it personally, so I live vicariously through Bonney players in general. So again, this is Shudder's version of the list, and congratulations to their top 4 finish this weekend, or this past weekend. Next up, we've got Enel, which is Saucy's version, and honestly, Enel's been just kind of dropping in popularity. If not, people bringing the deck, but more of popularity in these top 16s. And when I made my first tier list going into this meta, I put Enel as first or second, but I also said as a caveat that I think this deck is something that's going to do very well for the first couple weeks of this meta, and then when people realize where the value is and how to play around it instead of playing into a lot of their effects, then the deck gets a little bit worse. So I think that's kind of true for where we're at right now. A lot of people respect on where to get the most amount of value from Enel, and to really take advantage and not play into where they can get some, you minimize the advantage they can get for free, if that makes sense. So I think most of the decks are pretty understood for what we're looking like. We do like to have Gadatsu and the Luffy. This one honestly is just super standard for all things considered. I still like Nami, just like another KO in life is very good for us, especially since it's a 1k counter, and sometimes you play it for 2. I've also seen a lot of people who just go, I'm at 1 life, I'm going to play Onami, get the banish, attack 5k, then I'll just Katakari back into my life, which kind of is like a 2-for-1. The fact that I'm able to KO something and then also get another life is really nice. And then also 4 copies of Roronoa. I've been seeing this card more often. I think that there are just some decks that just can't answer this card. And sometimes you do just need to be really aggressive against stuff, specifically like Rob Lucci. I think if you're able to just kind of push your advantage with these 7-cost Roronoas, I think that's important. And also with Nami being a little bit more popular, being able to have a 7k rush on play is good too. But honestly, if I was to play this deck, it would look pretty similar to this build. I think Enel is less about deck construction necessarily and more of sequencing and a little bit of luck of making sure you see the right cards at the right time, especially in your life. But I think the deck is still good, but if you're able to know where their advantage comes from and prevent them from getting it, I think Enel is getting a little bit worse as we get through this meta. But this is the build from Saucy, and congratulations for their finish there. Then next up, we do have Purple Luffy, and I do want to say a special shout out to Bryan for this one, Bryan Padilla. I made my tier list, and he commented, "Oh, where's Purple Luffy?" And I said I don't think it's super viable. I didn't put on the tier list, so it means it's playable or worse generically, but I also wagered him to challenge me, and challenge accepted and completed on that one. So big congratulations to Bryan for being able to get a top 16 with this Luffy, and really putting their money where their mouth is. So I think that's really, really cool that they are able to top with this one. So the more I see the Purple Luffy, I think that there are some potentials for it in this meta. I think going obviously top 16 is fantastic with it. It didn't do super well in Japan as well, Asia during this meta, but there is that kind of weird split where I think that the Sakazuki was a pretty bad matchup for it when it was existing in OP07. So being able to use it now is really good. Some decks just kind of crumble to Magellan still. So if you're playing against Black Yellow Luffy, Magellan is a very scary card because they are able to prevent you from getting that Moria turn, and also just the fact that you have so many good 5-cost out, which means that you don't have a great way to interact with it. I still think Red Purple Law is a bad matchup for the deck just because they're able to remove some of your cards, and additionally the fact that they just compress you very easily. If you're able to just take your life pretty easily with this Luffy effect every turn, that kind of changes up how the matchup works. But I remember specifically Zoro was a really bad matchup for this because they were so aggressive. And Red Purple Law, I think, is while it's kind of value in swarming the board, it's very aggressive at the same time too. So I don't have much more to say. I think this is a cool build. I think it's cool to see Purple Luffy top in this event. And it topped 2 times as well. We had both Bryan's build, and we also had, if I can find it, we also have, I should have looked this up beforehand. Oh, there were definitely two. We had one on Friday, right? Yep, which is Bryan's build. And then I think we had one on Sunday. Yeah, so we had one that got top 16 trick shots version of it too. So I think that the deck is probably better than I gave it credit for, and I definitely need to reevaluate and maybe test some games with it too. So anyways, this is Bryan's build. Congratulations for their top there. And then we got two singletons. We're going to start off with the Perona. And I really, really want to like Perona. I really do. I've been playing more like the Supernova build for it, but I think the Otama and just the Land of Wano version is just strictly better, all things considered. So I think that's good for what the deck wants to do. The only thing that I don't like about this deck is the four life is very miserable at some times. I think red purple law is just really good into this deck. You do get the free interaction with your leader resting stuff, but I do think if you see your good curve, right, you're definitely a deck that can take advantage of a cost Moria, specifically with like a Ryuma. So like like a Suru Ryuma feels really good. We also have like the Hiyori, which we can use to get some rotation, especially like if we have the Ryuma in our hand, we can do something where we can play Hiyori and Suru, and then we can Suru get the reduction, use our leader effect to rest something, and then Hiyori into Ryuma. So you get the sequencing that you actually want with it. We do have the You Can Be My Samurai, which has been popular for this deck too. 8-drop Sabo, which is great for the removal, especially since we have a cost reduction for free on our leader as well. And this has just been a generically, I think, good card, but hasn't been as popular than just honestly playing 8-drop Moria. But I still think in Perona specifically, when we also need to get cards into our trash, it's very good. So in general, I like this deck. I think it's really cool. I wish it was a little bit more consistent, but I do think this was a fantastic top 16 finish, and a big congrats to Norman for doing it there. And to wrap it up, we do have Zoro. So this is Yuan's version of it, and I haven't seen Zoro in a long time, which honestly I'm pretty glad about. But I know some people are really enjoyed the days of Zoro last year in the meta, but we do have some good tools that Zoro can also take advantage of. The fact that Rob Lucci's in this meta, and not only just the leader, but the 4 cost, which is searchable off the leader, means that there are some decks that just get some really good removal for this. And then also red purple law, even though it's a 4 life leader, can also, I think, do what this deck wants to do better at times. But if you're playing in a meta where I think most people have kind of stopped playing against Zoro or respecting it as a deck that exists, you can get a lot of extra value, which I think is cool. We do also have like the new dragon, so that's helpful. This being able to be like an 8k rush, but also the fact that you can give your leader Dawn, which means you get your leader effect for free. It just means like you get like an additional Dawn from that, which is really nice. So I like what the deck looks like. I haven't played Zoro in forever, so I'd have to try it out again to see if it has any function in this meta. I will say when it was relevant the last time, I think it was like OP05, and that's when like there was less like wide removal, and where you could maybe punish a Sakazuki potentially for if they were defending on their blockers with 0 life, Jambe could just win you the game too. So I think the deck is I don't know. I'm very surprised at this top, if I'm being honest, but I think it's cool that it did, and it gives me some reason to try it out some more too. So this is Yuan's version of it, and congratulations to their top 16 there. So that is only 10 decks out of 80, so a very small percentage of this, right? Like a quarter of a quarter, half of a quarter, an eighth of the deck list that we have for this weekend. So if you guys want to see more, make sure to check out Eggman Events. All of these are on there right now, and you can check out the deck list that you want to see, and all the different leaders that topped, which I think is really impressive. So I don't have much more. I do appreciate you guys making this far in the video. If you haven't already, hit like and subscribe. It does help the channel a lot. Also, make sure to check out Sleeve Chief and check out their deals. They would appreciate it, and I would too. And that's going to be it for this one. So again, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll catch you all next time.